Good afternoon, everybody. My name is miahtheking, and no, I do not have any fake hair. Today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam today called Thevaliant, developed by Kite Games and published by THQ Nordic. I just did a video from these guys. Anyway, the game is not selling in early access at the time of recording, and it is selling for $40 American. Now that's a pretty darn steep price tag. This game better be worth it, or I'm a rage quit. And never before has my name ever been so relevant. Check this out! So the basics of this game is that it's a squad-based RTS set in the 13th century Europe and 13th century Middle East. It has single-player campaigns and online cooperative and competitive multiplayer modes. So at first, going into this, I was expecting something quite different. I was expecting something with more tactics and progression, maybe a little bit more depth to the gameplay. But it's honestly just a straightforward kind of game. You play as Thevaliant, who works together with his friend and brother Ulrich. While fighting the Holy War in the Middle East, Ulrich comes across an ancient artifact said to be a piece of the staff of Moses. He starts to go mad with power, and Thevaliant needs to go and find the other pieces so he can save his friend and the world, and that's basically the story. In the game, you control small squads of soldiers. They have cavalry, archers, spearmen, swordsmen, hero squads, and many more. Each has a unique skill. They also have strengths and weaknesses, forcing you to play strategically and using them appropriately and using their skills at the right time. The game does not have turns, as it's all real time, and so it can get a bit tricky trying to make everything go exactly the way you want it to go. You get a replenishment tent in some missions, which allows you to do as it sounds: replenish lost soldiers or health for a squad, and sometimes even lets you recruit a new squad into your small army so you can continue on your mission. As you progress through the story, you will encounter a plethora of cutscenes and still frames with really well done voice acting, all telling you the story you're following. There are 15 missions, over 5 different types of hero squads, and 3 different skill trees you can use to customize your hero squads. Alongside the story, there is the cooperative mode and the competitive mode, as I mentioned earlier. For the competitive mode, it's not too bad. It's kind of like Company of Heroes, so if you know that game, then think of it a lot like that. You have points on the map that you need to take control of, and each point will give you a resource, either wood or gold. This determines how much you get per second. You use those resources to research upgrades for your troops, or to build defenses at one of the points. It doesn't have the build your own buildings thing like in Company of Heroes, which sucks, but that's not too bad of a game changer. It's not bad overall. The only thing I wish was that it had more than just 1v1 or 2v2, like 3v3, or why not 4v4? I mean, come on, I want massive armies, and the best way to do that is by giving us more players. And, maybe make the maps larger. I don't know. But overall, it wasn't bad. I even won my first match, but maybe I got lucky, or maybe it was my 1,000 hours of gameplay within Company of Heroes giving me an edge. Who knows? And yes, I really do have about 1,200 hours in Company of Heroes. I did not play the cooperative mode, as I didn't have anyone to play it with, so I can't judge that one. But from what I gather, you and a buddy, or maybe a group of buddies, have to hold your ground in a last stand kind of gameplay. Sounds like it could be fun, but those were never really my kind of thing in video games, so I'm not missing out much for me personally, and I'm sorry if I couldn't provide you with more information about that. So with all that out of the way, let's get to the good and the bad then, shall we? So for the good, I wanted to start off with the voice acting. It's really well done. I mean, it's really well done. And it sounds appropriate, and I have no complaints whatsoever. The music also almost perfect in how well it fits with the theme and how it fades in and out at the right times. The sound effects themselves are a little bit lame, to be honest. It sounds like someone went out back and threw stones at a garbage can. Not enough for the amount of action you're seeing in front of you, and not as epic as you'd expect it to sound. I'll go into that a little bit more later. But everything else was really well done. The graphics are beautiful, by the way. I love the graphics. Now, they're not perfect, but they're not anything to scoff at either. I mean, the attention to detail here is phenomenal. In some scenes, when you are looking at like a fern tree and you see its leaves blowing in the wind, you can also see the shadows of the particular ferns and the particular leaves showing on other ferns. You can see the light peeking through the little gaps. Overall, it was astonishing to see how good the game's attention to detail was scattered about as you're playing. The color was appropriate, they had the right amount of contrast, and everything looked the way you want it to look. The game does have a tutorial, a pretty decent one. It gives you detailed explanations without crowding the screen or crowding your brain with too much, while also giving you little pictures to help you know what it is you're looking for. The tutorial doesn't stop the game, and in fact it gives you these little blips off to the side that you can click on, which lets you set the time and place that you choose to learn that particular style of gameplay they're trying to teach, which was nice. And I think another positive here is the length. Now, I got through 2 missions, maybe it was 3, hard to tell, but that was all in about an hour. So divide 15 by 3, and you'll get 5. So maybe 5 hours of gameplay, varying here or there, depending. Now, in my book, that means this game should only be worth $25. Maybe $30 if you include the other quality and content and stuff, but I'll go into that later as well. Honestly, 5 hours of story plus who knows how many hours of online play, if that's more to your liking, and you've got a pretty lengthy game here, and that's a good thing. The creativity is another thing I wanted to talk about. Yes, we've all seen games based on the Crusades and medieval and blah blah blah, but including Moses' staff, the fact that it corrupts, taking you across the Middle East and Europe, and the storytelling, I mean, it's all very interesting. It might not be unique, but it's very interesting at least. Overall, a very solid baseline to start out with, but I hope you kept watching because now we're going to go into the bad. The gameplay. It's a bit slow and a bit lackluster. Sure, over many campaign missions you can unlock newer skills, but they're still kind of boring. And the units, while fighting, you can see the intricate fighting moves and the enemy reacting to them. Now this is real, not to mention the lack of ability to create any buildings, limited amount of units you can build. I think there's 8, maybe 10 different units throughout the game that you can build and control. Overall, it was just kind of slow and lackluster, and I think that was the main problem. Partnering up with the last negative is the sound. Now, I know I mentioned it was great earlier, and for the most part it is, but those sound effects are so lame and disappointing that it kind of takes the thrill out of the combat. You watch your soldiers engage in these realistic-looking fights, but then the sound of rock against trash can is really just kind of boring. It sucked the entertainment out of the cool combat. Another thing that was frustrating me was the UI, the user interface. It was really annoying trying to figure out what is where and how to find it and how to use that, or what's this or what's that. I didn't like the UI. It felt a bit unorganized and disheveled. Next up is that price. $40. I'm not sure. I mean, if you don't like to play PvP, then you're paying $40 for 5, maybe 6 hour long game, which to me isn't worth it. But it's kind of a toss-up. This is more a minor negative. See, even though it's kind of short, there's a lot of quality here in the graphics, music, and voice acting, and the writing that might make that $40 price tag worth it to some people. But without knowing exactly how long the game is, it's kind of hard for me to personally justify the price tag. Maybe it's worth it to some, but not others, which is why I'm mentioning it at all. So I think that's about the only negatives that I could think of and find. So here's the bottom line, in my personal opinion. It's a good game. Not great, but it's good. It has great graphics, great voice acting, interesting story, and I didn't encounter any bugs or glitches while playing. However, its sound effects quality is a bit low, the fighting is a bit slow, and that price tag fills me with woe. But I think that price tag might just be justifiable to some. It all depends on what you're looking for. This is an RTS with its own interesting story which it focuses heavily on. So if you're looking for a good journey and a good story, then this will be a good pick for you. But along with that story, you don't get to make a lot of choices. It's pretty linear. Its combat could be a bit faster and have a better difficulty curve, but overall it's not horrible. There's no base building, and its multiplayer needs to add a bit more spice to it. So honestly, it's really going to be up to you guys. If you liked what you saw and heard, then check it out. If you didn't, then don't. Maybe wait and get it on a discount on Steam. As far as I know, I didn't leave anything out, and I think I pretty much talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. Just know what you're getting into before you buy it, alright? So that's all the time I got, everybody. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.